Looking for some inspiration? You've come to the right show. Step into your divine feminine energy with me as I spill the tea on leadership and life. Hi, I'm Tracy M., your host here on Brave Girls, and I've got your back, and no mean girls are allowed. I've been called the fairy godmother of storytelling, and my gift is to unearth people's stories, share them, and make the world a better place for all of us. So sit back, relax, and listen in as we send some more positive vibes out into the universe. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the show, Giselle. I'm just so happy to have you here on our reboot of Brave Girls with Tracy M. And I am just so honored that you are going to be part of this season 1, where I really get to amplify the voices of people like you who are out in the world doing really great work with your storytelling, with your podcasting, with your media, and digital innovation. And so welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tracy. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
So the first question that I always ask everybody is, tell us a little bit about you and your backstory and how that really has influenced what you're doing today with Giselle Avenue and sort of your big message out into the world. So kind of tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So, of course, my name is Giselle Climpson. I'm originally from North Alabama, and so I grew up in the Tennessee Valley, and then I attended grad school in Alabama. But I've always known for myself to be more of a metropolitan girl, and I really thought after I finished school that my objective was to get into the right environment so I could continue to grow. So then I decided to attend graduate school. And it's so funny. I chose 3 cities. It was New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, and I think it was California, Southern California. So I applied to all 3 graduate programs. I was like, whoever lets me in, that's where I'm going. But my intention was to, of course, earn my master's degree, but more importantly, go ahead and get into the field of communications, entrepreneurship, and really just paving my own way. So that's kind of where I got my inspiration for starting my organization, which is Giselle Avenue. I got in school in Atlanta and I was like, oh, I'm headed to Atlanta. It's right here in the South. It's right next door. I have a ton of family here. And my big inspiration was I've always been very proactive and somewhat of a feminine leader. So although I found myself in leadership positions, I definitely wore the leadership as a woman. So very feminine, very outspoken, very excited, very high frequency, very, I guess you could say similar to like the Legally Blonde character, where although she was a lawyer, she's like, hey, I am a woman, I'm a girl, and I'm just going to do it my way. And so I found myself in that space, again, in leadership roles, but showing up as a feminine, authentic woman. But that was met with challenges in various roles because I realized that the feminine did not really have a lot of space in certain spaces, right? So whether it's an organization, if you think of religious organizations, even just groups, there really isn't a lot of visibility for women who are making an impact in their authentic feminine essence. And so that is what really inspired me to start Giselle Avenue. So it started out as a blog. Again, I'm a writer, I'm a dancer, I do all things art expression. And so I started out as a blog here in Atlanta, and that was my way to kind of tap into the industry and get into the field of entertainment and just kind of working with people, working directly with the people. And then I got into really just working with clients. And so that came from just me being able to see ahead and just kind of seeing what was happening in the industry. Like we were moving from this like very traditional form of PR to more like branding and storytelling and really getting online. And at this time, Tracy, people were not online. I'm an early adopter. We call it Web 2.0, which is kind of what we're doing now. If you look at the news nowadays, 2025, we have the emergence of Web 3.0, which is more so like a decentralized concept of technology. But I was an early adopter of Web 2. So when I was in college, we were learning about Twitter. So it's like, this is a tweet. This is how to write a tweet. And I was one of the first cohorts of group students that were on Facebook, right? So we're talking 06-ish. it was at that time only for college students. So it was, again, like this very digital social experiment, if you will, to see if people would be willing to go online and kind of live or, adapt to society. And so I do really consider myself an early adopter to that lifestyle. And fast forward, here I am, kind of still in
Right.
the same breath, but definitely just kind of evolving with the times. And so, just like I said, I've always been passionate about telling stories and really just touching the people and meeting them where they are.
Right, right. And I think that back in the days when I met you, when
Yes.
I remember you were like, "My name is Giselle and I'm with Giselle Avenue." And I was like, "Oh, check her out." We were at a communications conference and yeah, I was so fascinated that you were sort of making your way in Atlanta in the entertainment world. And I was like, because that point in time, it was like a up and coming place where entertainment was really happening.
Yeah.
It was like way before Tyler Perry and his studios and stuff like that, but there was still a scene that
Yep.
you were tapping into. And I love that at your core, you're an artist, and that you've really tapped into that. And you've got this lived experience now. So let me ask you this: what's something that fast forward to where you are today? What's something you wish you would have known when you were 18
Oh,
that
that's
you
a
know
good
now?
question. Okay. I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known how important it is to follow your intuition. Um, I think that's something, especially as men and women, like sometimes you'll get intuitive thoughts about things. Like it's like, my gut is telling me to do this. And while I've always been kind of in tune with my intuition, I didn't always trust it. I didn't always just, of course, because, that's logic coming in, but I didn't always just say, oh, I'm just going to go with my feelings and just go for it. Because again, we're often taught don't do that, right? Like, you have feelings, but they come and go. Like, try to be logic about this and all this different, the ideas of how to, I guess, exist and show up. So at 18, I did not really get how to maneuver through my own intuitive thoughts because I really just didn't know what they were. I kind of always had a very big imagination, and I definitely encourage everyone to use your imagination, even if it doesn't matter what age you are. I think when we're children, we're encouraged to use our imagination, but as we, mature, it's kind of looked at and frowned upon. But in hindsight, I wish that I would have been more imaginative and focused on my intuitive thoughts instead of being subject to peer pressure and societal standards and what we should do and could do versus what you're supposed to be doing, which is an individual mission. Nowadays, I've seen content where people are like, gosh, I wish I would have just listened to my intuition because the world we live in now is completely different. And so the advice that we were given at the age of 18 doesn't necessarily apply at the age of 30 plus, 40 plus, and so forth. And so that's what I would say. I just like trust your intuition. I know you're young. I know you don't think you know it all, but there's something about what you're feeling that has some truth to it.
That's really, I mean, at any age, this in dealing with your clients and as you mentor and coach other people, it's like having that confidence that you should trust your gut. So, what are
Mhm.
some of the things that you've done over time to really build up that confidence and that like knowing of who you are, where you are today, right? Like you've just
Mhm.
stepped into all the things that make you who you are. So, what were some of the things or and I know confidence sometimes comes from like trials and tribulations, but like, is there anything that you could like that you would tell somebody that, if they're really like they don't have that confidence, like what were some of
Mhm.
those things that you did?
Sure. One thing I did quite well, which was that I never really asked for permission. Um, Again, in school, for example, you can't go to the restroom without asking for permission. You can't go on a field trip without a permission slip. And so we're kind of conditioned to seek permission to be ourselves, to pursue things, to do things, to even imagine things. But I think if you learn how to stop asking for permission. Don't seek permission from the world, even from your, I don't mean to be a rebel here, but not from your parents, not from any authoritative figures, because unless you're in that kind of, organization, it does not help you grow in your own journey. So not asking for permission is something I really encourage people to do. Just really be bold and brave, as like similar to the podcast that you're hosting here. Be bold and brave about what you're believing in yourself to do, or believing in higher power to do. But when we ask for permission, it's 100% submission to someone else's thoughts. And our thoughts frame our reality, right? And so if you're seeking permission from person A, and then you seek permission from person B, and maybe they have two conflicting answers, it can get really challenging to hear your own voice. And a lot of times our voice is coming from within. And then if you're asking for permission, you're seeking validation, those are ways to drown out your own intuitive thoughts and your own voice. And it can lead you down a path that you literally was not supposed to be on. Like, you could be doing something completely outside of alignment with your true self. And you'd be like, well, what did I do? It's like you're asking for permission to exist and live your life. So that's one thing I would say, is try your best to don't ask for permission. Another thing which I'm learning a lot about is really the concept of being fearless. I know we hear that a lot as like like motivational speaks, quotes and things like that. But since, the past 5 years, I would say we've all been confronted with some sort of fear, and it's really looking you dead in your face. And the way that you overcome fear is to feel fear, but still go through with the emotion. Like, because again, it will pass. But I think being fearless has really helped me too. Like, I just don't see the fears. I know they're there, but I pay more attention to the possibilities instead of what's impossible. So be fearless. Don't ask for permission, and really just spend time alone, or spend time in a place where you can hear your voice and gather your own thoughts. We're embedded with so many distractions every single day. And this is even before social media. I know nowadays we like to blame social media, but before social media, there was newspapers, there were friends at work, there were people at school, there were extracurricular activities. Like, there's so many ways for us to get outside of our own life and to kind of try to escape all the time. But I think, like I said, when a couple years ago, we all just had to kind of face our fears. And if you're either going to face the fears or you're going to try to run away from them. And I think running away from them, they're always going to come back. They'll just be there waiting for you. So yeah, being fearless, face your fears, don't ask for permission. I think those are some of the things that someone could do today to really power up their confidence.
I love that. I love that. So, one of the things that you said is our thoughts frame our reality. And so let's dig a little deeper with that. And you've talked about, like, you're sort of the master manifester, and you're really into the divine feminine energy. Speak a little bit about that, because I'm not sure that everybody really understands the magic of divine feminine energy. And, like, that's kind of your thing that you have really, like, dove headfirst on, and, like, you are here to awaken us to. So kind of like talk a little bit about that and your journey there.
Sure. So let's go back to Giselle Avenue. So, like I said, it's a digital media agency, but it's not your average anything. So a lot of the work I've done on Giselle Avenue has been a form of divine feminine leadership. And so I'll talk to a client, maybe they're like business owner, very, what you see is what you get, as far as like the work they're doing and the money that they're making, which is always important in business. But when I talk to them, they were able to see something beyond what they were living in, right? So they could have the financial success, the great business, but there was something missing. And I believe on Giselle Avenue, I've been able to really hone in on the nature of the divine feminine, which is the unseen power within yourself. The divine feminine is, simply put, this unseen spiritual natural energy that dwells in all of us. And it's really focused on the art and creativity and inner chi. It's the energy that you cannot see. And so we could start there. Like if you talk about a mother's work and, or even a daughter's work, a sister's work, and how when you spend time with your friend girls, it's like, oh, it just felt so good. And we just had so much fun. That is sacred, divine, feminine energy. It's something that is unseen, but it's so nurturing. It's so, it charges you up. It really gives you like power and nurtures your spirit. So it's definitely involved with the higher dimensions and higher consciousness. So 3D obviously is here we are on planet Earth, right? So we're talking gas stations, fire stations, police officers, schools, everything we can see is 3D. The fourth dimension is the consciousness, knowing that we are on a 3D plane. And I believe the fifth dimension is the more higher divine energy. That's the spirit. That's where the spirit comes in. And so divine feminine energy helps you tap into your spiritual nature, the nature that is unseen, but actually fuels your soul. It helps you be able to know your life's work and your life's mission. And I think it's kind of outside of, like I said, the norm and outside of what you see. But if you can tap into that, that is where all your power lies. Some could call it like your gifts from the universe or for your gifts from the Most High. The gifts that you are naturally, innately born with. And our job is to operate in those gifts. And sometimes one of my greatest treasures, which has been working through on Giselle Avenue, is to help people know and identify those gifts and then also learn how to operate in them. Because counselors, like in school or what have you, ideally that's what they're there to do. Like if you were in high school, like, oh, I'm going to the counselor, she's going to help me figure out my life, and that kind of concept, right? But that is essentially similar to that divine feminine energy. It's unseen, and it's the work of the feminine and what we do and bring to the table. And it's challenging because in most business settings, that's the last thing that we're talking about right now. Okay. We're going to talk about our money, our sales, our business goals, our charts, our whatever, profit, loss. You don't really see that ever, in a lot of business settings. But I think now, here in 2025 and beyond, we're going to start seeing more organizations lean into this divine feminine energy. One, because women, we're everywhere. we're everywhere. Okay. We're everywhere. We're in every room, whether we are speaking loud or just sitting there, we're there. So that visibility, occupying that space of the feminine, and it is not about how you dress or how you wear your hair, whether you wear makeup or not. No, it's simply your essence. Your existence is the divine feminine. And so another thing, what we're learning is how to simply go from doing, trying to make goals, make things happen, to just being. And in our being, we have so much power. But this is, again, like you said, Tracy, this is a very new concept. I think it's just now hitting the planet in the past 5 years. But our planet itself is of feminine nature. And so we're all being called to kind of lean into how the planet operates, as opposed to force, push, win, right? And so, believe it or not, Giselle Avenue was complete imagination. I just came up with it. It came from the spirit realm. Like I used to call it Giselle PR when I was, I guess the first year, I was like 22 or something. This was like 2012. And I heard from the spirit. Spirit was like, no, call it Giselle Avenue. I was like, okay, it's Giselle Avenue. And when I went with that name, it opened up the door to just fully embrace my, all of my gifts, as opposed to trying to limit it to what I've been trained in. Because I do hold a degree in public relations. So limiting my expertise to kind of expanding to, again, what the spirit has guided me to do. So that's it in a nutshell. And it's also one more thing, Tracy, and this is why most people are afraid of it or fear, or not most, but some, because it does dwell in the dark, in the void. The void is the unknown. It's like the black matter. It's just nothingness. Mm-hmm. But if you think about most artists and creators of any way, are channeling from that place when they create new things. Even this podcast is channeling from the dark void. And when you're able to pull from that, then you have all this magic. But the hardest part is being able to go in and actually tap into that energy.
Yeah, this past weekend, one of the things that I did with my girlfriends in St. Pete was we went to a contemporary art museum that was all blown glass. And when we left, and it was all different artists from around the world that had used glass. And one of the things that I said when I came out is I said, those people got divine downloads for their art because it was not like even something in the human realm that would have given anybody really the idea to create it. Some of the stuff was fabulous, and some of it was just so unbelievable. You could tell that they had in fact this gift that they were able to channel what spirit had given to them and then make it into something in like a representation. And it was fascinating. But I do think that a lot of artists, a lot of writers, like I know I'm a writer and a creator, and I definitely get divine downloads, like names of like chapters of a book, things that I can call things, concepts. And I'm like, and what I've been taught from all my writing coaches is it's your job to grab that and run with it, because if you don't, spirit will give it to somebody else. And so
Yes.
that has happened. And so once I heard that, I was like, so when I get stuff, even if it's in the middle of the night, I pull my phone out and I put it in my notes so that when I wake up the next day, I'm like, I got to action this. Like,
Yes.
even if I don't understand what I'm supposed to action in it to, but when I do, it's like the feedback that I get on that piece that I wrote is like beyond anything I could have planned, really.
That's it, Tracy. That's exactly what we're talking about here. And it's funny you mentioned that. I saw some content recently. They were talking about the artist Michael Jackson. He literally said what you just said. He said, if I get an idea, now I'm in my voice, but if he gets an idea, he'll wake up out of his sleep, he'll write it down and he'll act immediately. And he said, because I don't want, if I don't do it, if I don't act on it, then spirit will give it to Prince. That's what, that's what he
It's
said.
true. It's so true. Well, and I was going to say the other person that's like Michael Jackson is Prince, honestly.
Yeah, there you go.
And the stuff that both of those gentlemen were able to create, you know? Yeah. And I guess the other thing is, I think a lot of times people, you know, they either don't accept their divine feminine energy or they don't step into it. And that's such a shame, right? Because, you know, once you do, the possibilities are really quite endless. So
They are endless. They are. And it's, and like I said, it's not a new concept, but I think even us having conversations about it opens up the door, the portal even to this unknown yet profound world that we're now building together. As creators, as artists, as writers, I do feel like we're in the digital renaissance right now. And I think we are all being called to channel gifts, whatever those gifts are, even if you're a welder or, you know, things that might look 3D, like even dentists for in their own right are artists. They're able to do all this amazing stuff with teeth. And it's like, if we could all view it and channel from that divine feminine space instead of pushing her out and acting like she doesn't matter and just like avoiding this energy, I do think that we have a chance to really just change the trajectory of the future. Because again, as we can see, I'm not a big news buff, but there's a lot going on in the job markets and in the skills markets and things like that. We got a lot of transformative times. And so now it's our job to kind of transform with the times and don't get left behind. I think the number one way to do that is by channeling and tap into your own spiritual gifts or your gifts from the universe. And also, again, like we said, that divine feminine chi, just really tapping in and honoring that you have more to offer than what you do and your family titles, you know?
correct.
So yeah, that's where we are. We're it's just a lot of ascension happening on the planet. So
Yeah. Yeah. One of the really neat things, so the museum that we went to was called the Imagine Museum. And so I highly recommend it if anybody's ever in St. Pete, Florida. But they had one of the things that the founder did, which I thought was really interesting, was so they had the rooms that had the different curated, pieces, and a lot of them were like grouped by themes. But one of the things they had was they had quotes painted onto the wall. And the one that I pulled out for our conversation, I was like, oh, this is so Giselle. Creativity, creativity is intelligence having fun. And that was Albert Einstein, which I'd never heard that quote before. So like I picked up the pieces of paper because I was like, some of these quotes really like hit me. But like I think there is something to that, when you are exhibiting your creativity and having fun, right?
mhm.
It's you're showing your intelligence in that way,
Yes,
right?
yes. And you're able to just really embark on a different timeline if you're able to do that. And I have art in my apartment of Albert Einstein. I've had it for years and I will not get rid of it. It's E equals MC squared. It's energy in motion, emotion, and it's all about that inertia, the inertia
Mm-hmm.
equation. And it's beautiful, but it reminds me that we're all geniuses, right? In our own right. Even, and I do speak very generally, so excuse me, but I think that we all have a genius capability, if you will. And through, like I said, I started on Giselle Avenue. I was just being myself, doing my thing. I was teaching Zumba around for different corporate wellness programs. I launched a coloring book in the past year or two, a Magical Black Girls coloring book, which is just for inner child, like opening up that energy for the inner child within. But even through Giselle Avenue, I've been able to work as a government contractor, doing consulting for government agencies, because believe it or not, they too are trying to tap into more creativity. They're trying to figure out how to reach audiences and reach, this changing generations. How do we get to them? What do we need to do with our messaging, with our digital content strategy? Government is on social media, so they need people like myself who can come in and like craft those messages, this scientific data, and translate it into information that people actually read. And so, even though it might seem like just being creative or having fun is not profitable, but another thing I like to say, you have to have fun to get to your funding. You have
Yes.
fun to get to funding. And so and because again, we're moving higher in our ascension process. So you just never know. Now I sound like Dr. Seuss, but all the places you can go. Listen, Tracy, I'm gonna write those children's books, okay? And it's so funny. I really believe it, and I've lived it, and it's worked for me. I literally moved to a completely different city. All of Giselle Avenue has been digital. So again, because I'm a digital native, so I didn't have to have some store and please come in, please, you guys come check out my work. No, I didn't ask for permission, and you just do it, and then watch what happens if you continue along that path of the unknown.
Right. Talk to the audience a little bit about your podcast and like the inspiration behind that and kind of what you're trying to achieve with your podcast.
Sure. Thank you for asking. And so, like I said, Giselle Avenue is a 10-year-old company. I've been in business for that long, but my name is Giselle. The brand is Giselle Avenue, but I did not really talk about myself much. I didn't really, and I guess this is due to training, right? I was always kind of behind my company. I got a logo and you don't need to know who's doing what. But around 2020, I definitely had got another spiritual, we call it download or upload. And Spirit was saying, Giselle, it's time for you to start speaking to the people directly. It's time to speak directly to the people. Because it was a time where people were ready to receive those messages. Again, we were going through a lot on the planet, and
Oh yeah.
the earth was ready to receive this divine feminine energy, this unknown source, but this love, this high vibrational conversations. Because I really struggled with that growing up, just not really having a lot of people to relate to me because I was always channeling from such a higher dimension.
Hmm.
And so that's why, like yourself, we do different things to kind of express ourselves. But excuse me, in 2020, I wrote like my first poem. And when I wrote the poem and I put it out as a digital product, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to start talking to the people. I think I can actually channel my own voice, right? Because
Right.
the voice of Giselle Avenue was really helping other people find their voice, but I didn't
Right.
spend time finding my own voice and actually like using it and like speaking. And so I opened up my throat chakra, which is this one right here. And Spirit was like, all right, you ready to start talking? Like, get the talking. And so I started talking, started doing different ways to really just open up and express myself online. I got on TikTok, which also helped me get used to that because everything, you and I were trained communicators. So I do have respect for discipline. And I was like, I used to do broadcast journalism like in high school. Like I used to do the morning announcements and stuff. But I stepped away for so long, I was kind of scared. I'll be honest. I was like, I don't want to be in front of the camera. I need to get out. It was just a lot.
Right.
But I pushed through and I decided to start the Goddess Giselle podcast in 2024. It's on YouTube as a way to really help create space for women making an impact in their communities. Because again, this divine feminine energy is on the planet. It's rising. It's getting hotter every season. The women are speaking up. The women are taking up space. And I'm like, it's time for us to actually talk to each other, right? Like, let's get
Right.
out of this patriarchal you versus me,
Right.
girl boss. I can do it myself. I'm making all this money without y'all. That spirit has to go. Okay. It's off the
I
planet
agree.
and it's
I agree.
done. Right. And so the next wave is all about collaboration and community and really
Yes.
caring about the next woman and caring about her journey to really show that we can do it, like a very sincere space. And so I started the podcast to create that space for women making an impact. And it's on YouTube and it's very organic. It's definitely a curated list of guests, right? I do vet everyone who comes on the show. And it's really just showing that, hey, even though these women are making all of these strides in their communities, they're still women. They still
Right.
deserve friendship and sisterhood and conversation with someone who understands where she's coming from. And, being able to, like you mentioned earlier, as you'll have different guests here on your show, talking about rest and wellness and what does the new modern woman look like? How does she show up in society? Like when and where does she enter? And I really noticed through my own struggles as a woman trying to navigate these very, I don't know, stoic environments. I'm like, I can't be bubbly. Like, how am I supposed to be? That's just how I am. Or, if I'm having a
Right.
bad day because I'm on my menses, I don't want to get stoned for it. Like, it's just
Right.
nature, And so that's what I did on the podcast. And it's been very exciting and really enlightening for me, again, because these women have been killing it. Thank you, Tracy, for coming on the show. But it's like, let's hear her story outside of who she had to become in this world that we're in, and being able to like give her a safe space to just let her hair down and just be right.
Right.
So that's what it is, and it's been really exciting. I think we're at 16 episodes now, and
That's fantastic.
yes, and we're gonna take a break for a little bit, but we'll be back we'll be back shortly. And
Yep.
really, like I said, the inspiration to just let's have real conversation. I think conversation is also a lost art because again, we're on social media. We think we know these people, these kind of parasocial relationships, and folks having all these followers. But it's like, no, these are humans, these are people. And I think now more than ever, everyone is not everyone, but there's a desire for community and like normal people, like just want to
Yes.
talk to folks, And I think that's
Yes.
a place I'm really trying to build that community of just sisterhood and womanhood. Like, let's just talk to each other instead of having an agenda and like, oh, what can I sell you? What can you sell me?
Right. Right.
Because that is just so exhausting. And so that's why I created it. It's been going really great. And like I said, I'm excited to see what's to come. And it's all about community and collaboration and really not competition. Because it's like, back to what I said earlier, we're all unique and we all have our own gifts. So it's like, why not just hear about hers and then you hear about mine, and we kind of go forth in that way.
Yeah, Amen. I'm gonna put the links to your podcast and all your social media, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, all the things, right? So people will know how to get in touch with you. So my final question is, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done, Giselle?
Mm. Well, I'm in the midst of writing a news story for myself,
Okay.
but at this time, the bravest thing I did was to leave my home state and
Mhm.
follow a dream. I did it. I did it. I did it. You can do it too. I did it. I didn't look back, and I'll say leaving my hometown, because I left my hometown when I was 18,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's been 18 years since I left.
Right.
And by the grace of God, by that divine feminine energy, this divine masculine energy, and all of the spirit guides, because I always say, some for myself as a high powered woman, just high achiever, very ambitious, my help comes from the spirit realm. It doesn't come from people like that as much. It
Right.
really comes from the spirit realm. So if you're one of those people where you just find yourself being kind of different, maybe your help comes from the spirit realm. But I left my hometown at 18, and I have never moved back. I haven't had to start over again. I haven't had any,
Yeah, that's
setbacks.
huge. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
huge.
Because
That's
life
huge.
happens. I
It
haven't had
does.
any setbacks to push me back where I started. And that's because I truly believe that my steps have been ordered, and I have been
Mhm.
obedient because of that intuition, because of that spiritual connection to the divine. I never even changed my major in college, which
Right,
at the
right.
time was a big deal, right? It's like your
Oh
parents are
yeah.
like, you better not change your major. So I didn't change my major. Like, everything's just been it
I
seems
love that.
calculated, but it's really just this divine connection to source. And I have not gotten out of alignment with myself. And Giselle Avenue, I truly believe, has helped me stay on path, because to me
Mhm.
it feels like my own 401k. It's like my own trust fund, my own I don't know, to say that, like my security blanket, but it came from the spirit realm. It's like my spiritual
Right.
protection. And so I would say that leaving my hometown and never looking back, it has gotten scary. And the hardest part, I think, if you're a man or a woman, you're like wanting a change of environment, or maybe you don't align with the environment you come from. Being brave is number one. And then also just knowing that everything happens for a reason. But it
Yep.
does get scary and it does get hard. But that's what I mean about the feminine. You got to be able to go into the dark and just
Yep.
see the light, create the light, and don't lose yourself. Because I used to, once upon a time, I had a pen name before Goddess Giselle, which is the name I go by now. It was Belle in the City. And so that was,
Oh, I love that. Uh-huh.
I know I loved her too, but I grew up.
Yeah,
Then
you did.
right. But when you met me, Tracy, you met Belle in the city, right? So I'm out in the city. Hey, Tracy, I'm Giselle. And like, so I got that name again from the spirit, but it was inspired by being a Southern belle in the city. So even
Mhm.
though I'm in the city and it's fast and there's all kind of characters in the city, lots of scams, whatever, I
Right.
am a Southern belle. I was raised by a Southern belle, a woman of values and virtue, and she taught me everything I needed to know to be successful. So while I'm out here in the midst of the dark, right, don't
Right.
lose sight of who you are and where you come from. And so that's why I called it I'm the Belle in the City.
I think
Um,
that's going to be the name of your memoir. Or at least
yes,
like the first section of your like if you do a three acts for your memoir, the first one is going to be Belle in the City.
there you go, Tracy. I love that. Thank you for the
I would
tip.
totally read that. I would totally read that. Yeah, I think
And
I love that.
I love that you shared that, because literally, see, this is what we talked about earlier. I had that idea a while ago, but did I act on it? No. But that's because I was still in the story. Like, I was
Yeah. Oh yeah.
in it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I think that it's almost like a coming of age, like where you were at that point in that season of your life,
Yeah.
right? That you had this persona,
Yep.
and like you could tell all the stories about, like you said, you were at that conference and you're like, "Hey, Tracy, I'm Giselle." I was just like, "Oh man, she's got a whole avenue named after her." So, but Giselle, I really, really appreciate you telling your story, sharing your wisdom, sharing your guidance. I know, no, without a shadow of the doubt, that someone's going to listen to this podcast and something that you said is going to be exactly what they need to hear. So many people listen to my podcast and they have told me, they have emailed me, they have said, there was just this one nugget that this person dropped. It's like a gem. And it's
Mm.
like you're just, being you and sharing your wisdom, but it could really honestly be what that person needs to hear today, right? When they listen to the pod.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much. We're going to share all your information. You are such a blessing to this world. You are sharing your gifts. You are being authentic. You're showing the way. I'm so happy that we've reconnected, that you agreed to be as part of season 1 of my reboot, where I really want to amplify some really amazing women just like you so that your voices are heard. And so just thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for having me. I surely appreciate it. I told you earlier, I have so much gratitude for how we've been able to stay connected through the divine feminine of collaboration and community and just really being ourselves. So I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. I hope you found a gem or two that will motivate you to change your mindset, pursue your dreams, and fulfill your soul's purpose. I believe that we can go farther and faster when we connect in the spirit of positivity and understand how we individually can serve humanity. The world needs more love, so keep shining, ladies. I can be found on my corner of the interwebs at tracym.com, and I'd love to connect on social. Just Google me and my SEO will tell you more about what I'm up to as I step into my purpose as a storyteller. I love you, brave girls. Now, it's time for you to step up your game and become the best possible version of you. I believe in you, and you've got this.